Hey y'all, what's up? It's your good sis Erica Vane back again with another power video. In this video, I'm breaking down season 1, episode 2. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, the episode opens up right where we left off. The courier got hit and now everything is in shambles. Julio has to come and help clean everything up, pull sis up out of there, do what they gotta do. The other little homie from the organization is gonna grab the body, and we're gonna see that again when Ghost and Tommy are called to actually handle this. And then we kind of see the conflict, right? So we cut right to Ghost, and he has to handle this, but he also has a meeting coming up with Cynthia to talk about these parties that's going to happen at Truth. And this is a thing that's going to continue to reverberate within the series as Ghost is fighting with his current position as a drug kingpin and his desired new position of wanting to be a legit business owner, a nightclub owner. We're going to see this actually be symbolized in the little struggles he has. So he has to go deal with this right now because the courier just got hit in his drug business, but he also has a meeting with this potential business partner. And that's something that Kantos brings up of like, yo, we got this meeting and he got to make a choice. He chooses to deal with this, but then while he's also at the meetup with Tommy and to talk about what's going on with that organization, Tommy reminds him like, yo, the club, it should be an afterthought, not a forethought. It is the thing to clean the money. This is the actual business. This is the focus, and you need to get it together. And in that conversation, one of the things I think is the most important to note is that Ghost speaks about the organization. So we learn like their organization is one that's built on finesse. They don't have any real street soldiers, which is how they've been able to move the way they move. They set up an organization so that they're hiding in plain sight. They're not moving like a regular drug organization with a bunch of goons just waiting on standby to shoot up everything. So they really can't go to war, even though that's what Tommy wants to do off rip. That really gives us clarity in reference to these two brothers who, you know, are at the top of this organization, who are partners in this organization. Ghost is the one who's going to think things through, be very calculated and strategic, and Tommy is the one that's going to go to the mattress every single time and shoot everything and think about it later, talk to people later. Whoever else is still breathing at the end, they get talked to later if they still breathing. Now, I thought it's also important to note that in the scene, we see Tommy pull Shawn in and makes him watch the decapitation and the breakdown of this body. And we don't actually know why in that moment, but when we come back to it, we learn because this is Kanan's son and Tommy feels like he needs to learn and see and be ready to get his hands dirty. But it's also spurred by the conversation that Ghost just had with him. It's like they don't have soldiers. And Tommy's like, well, you need to be able and ready to be a soldier, not just a driver, not just sitting out here looking pretty. You need to be ready to go to war if we have to go to war. And your father is one of the people who taught us everything that we know, so you definitely have to know this too. Now, at the top of the episode, we see Tasha and her mama going back and forth and questioning Ghost. And honestly, her mama is just acting like the audience right here for us and really asking the questions that we want to ask, but we ain't in the show with them, so we can't ask. But she's basically like, is he really where he says he's going to be? And then she reiterates to her like, Ghost is the one that's paying for everything. You're not going to get any alimony if he leaves you, because what? The government don't even know that he's making this kind of money that he's making, and that Tasha needs to actually remember that. And I think while Tasha puts on a very tough front, it definitely puts the thing in her head, and we see that later on in the episode because, you know, she's dressed up all cute waiting for Ghost to come home and, you know, thinks they will get it in, and then he ultimately goes into the office to look at this magazine that has Simon Stern on the cover, and I'm gonna get back into that later because I want to talk about his full arc around that. But like, you can see a pattern starting to form with Tasha where she says one thing and she's really great at playing tough, but she feels differently. In this episode, I think that the strongest theme is that we really just get to know the family and we learn the families involved. So we get to see Angela's family in this episode, and we get to see more of Ghost's family and all of their dependencies, because both of them, Angela and James, are both financially supporting all of their loved ones. Now, going over to Angela's side, Angela tells Paz how she don't feel a spark with Greg because Paz is asking about her relationship and why she don't have no kids yet and why they're not moving forward, and she talks about how she wants butterflies, and Paz becomes the voice of reason for her and just like, yo, that's not realistic, that's not going to happen, you looking for a fairy tale when we don't live in a fairy tale. And honestly, that just tells us what we can expect from Angela. Angela is a hopeless romantic. Angela wants to be swept off her feet. Angela is not satisfied with where she is in her life, and this makes the perfect opportunity for James because he is also in the exact same emotional and mental point in his life. They just have two very different circumstances. Not to mention, they both have the history of being into each other when they were younger. And as a side note, we also get to see at the start of this episode planning for Tommy and Holly. And I think it's interesting how when we're starting to see everybody's family, everybody of importance, Tommy is of importance too, but he kind of falls into the James St. Patrick's family because we see him having dinner with them. We see him playing with Tariq and doing all these things, and we don't actually get to see his family at all. His mom was mentioned in episode 1, but for all intents and purposes, James is his family, and James's family is his family. So I think that that's also something that's really important to note when we see him and his interaction with Holly, and the importance around that, because he doesn't keep people around him, and he also doesn't show great interest in others, even other women. As we move forward in the episode, we see Kantos pushing for Ghost to step up and be the face of the club. They're having the conversation about Howard Stern, but specifically they're talking about Cynthia and trying to get this Vogue party, and she coerces them into allowing her to have cameras there, and Kantos is like, perfect, so then he can actually start to brand himself as the face of the club, and then that will work in reference to them trying to build their nightclub empire. And then again, they reference Howard Stern because he is the ultimate club conglomerate that they want to be able to get onto their side and be able to have them buy into their franchise and support them in taking this into a national and international endeavor. Now, going back to what I said about Ghost coming home late and going to his office versus going to bed while Tasha is sitting there waiting because she's trying to put that thing on him to reiterate and try to keep him home, because Tasha really thinks that sex is more powerful than I believe it is. But okay, girl. And when we see Ghost going to his office, he's reviewing the magazine with Simon Stern on the cover, and in the articles we're seeing these big lavish houses and boats, and you get to see the admiration in James's eyes. So you can see clearly, like visually, this is something that this man wants. What he has, this penthouse New York City apartment, this nightclub, all this money, all this power, this wife, this kids, all of that is not enough. If you didn't catch it the first episode, then catch it right now as he's going through this magazine and marveling at this man's life. And honestly, I think in the moment, seeing himself in those same things. It's also important to note in the same scene, when he gets a call from Tommy about having to rotate the phones, he makes a point of finding Angela's number and noting her number before destroying his phone, because she is one of the only people in his life right now, or has re-entered his life right now, that is buying into his new dreams. Everybody else is stuck on and very complacent with his old dreams. Being a leader of a drug organization, he's now a major distributor. They got hella money, more money than they would even ever really need. And everybody is completely fine. Tommy is fine with the status quo and wants things to stay the same. Tasha is fine with the status quo and wants things to stay the same. But Angela is the first person who was into his life in a way that heard him speak about wanting more and just poured into that. Now, what I will say specifically about that is that Angela doesn't know any different also. So she's able to blindly support and pour into him and support these new dreams that he has, because she has no context of what he's actually doing, and she doesn't know the full scope of what his life actually looks like right now. So while it's all great and all that you are excited that Angela is supporting you, she's also supporting a lie, James, and you are so actively like forgetting that part of it. And that's the part that what behooves me was you were completely forgetting that you're lying to this lady. She don't even know that you're married yet. Now, specifically in Angela's life and her career, Saxe makes his presence really known in this episode. They're trying to create a profile on Lobos's New York distributor, but Saxe wants to focus on Ruiz and sends Knox looking for Nomar. Now, this creates conflict with Angela and Greg Knox because they are dating and she wants to keep it, cute and quiet. And when she's looking for him, she can't find him, but it's because he's working with Saxe on this particular thing. And ultimately, I feel like this is the setup for her not feeling supported within her relationship or situationship, because what they got is definitely not a relationship, child, but it's something. Because later on in the episode, we see Greg and Angela fight over their position within the case. In this moment, I feel him not supporting her in the way that she feels like he should or she will want is a turning point for her. The same way that Tasha not seeing the new vision as clearly as Ghost wants is a turning point for him. Now, Tasha tries to get answers about who the woman was in the club that he was talking to the other night, but she does so very, very passively. And it's like, girl, if you gonna commit to a commit. This is one of the first parts where we start to see Ghost really start to turn on his finessing and his manipulation. His manipulation is not really great in this episode, but he definitely is sticking and moving and dodging different things. Aside from Tasha trying to figure out what's going on and what's changed with Ghost, because while he's telling her one thing, he's behaving another, and then the vibe is completely off, right? So he's saying all the right things, but he's doing things that don't actually line up with that. She's also stringing Shawn along, because Shawn, little simple ass, is definitely sprung. We have a moment where he tells her like he grew up in Hollis, but I'm just wondering, like, why didn't she know that if he's been around the family for a while and they're supposed to be taking care of him now that Kanan is in jail? Only note I made about this particular section, y'all, is that Tasha's playing Shawn like a fiddle, okay? He is just so goofy and excited to have secrets with Tasha, and it still looks like, even watching Ghost interacting with Angela getting that hot dog, he's like watching Ghost basically cheat on Tasha, and he's probably thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to get Tasha now, she's gonna be available because Ghost out here cheating on her. It's like, sir, that's never gonna work. Like, we can see that from a mile away, and we ain't even down the line yet in reference to that blowing up, but okay. This Ghost and Angela friendly at the museum is trouble. Who James allows himself to be with Angela is who he truly wishes he was. A quick pop out moment, y'all. I think that if Angela knew from the beginning that Ghost was married, that this would have been a non-starter. I want to believe that she would not have went there, but you can see after every single interaction how she's falling more and more and more in love with him. And who wouldn't? He's charming AF with her. He only shows her all of the great, all of the good, none of the grimy. And as I'm rewatching, I'm just like, I don't want to go back down this road, but here we are. On another note, why does Tommy have to move around like a bull in a china shop? If he had even an ounce bit more finesse to him, things would go much smoother and they could do more. Hell, he could be better poised to maintain a criminal organization if James chooses to step away. But hey, he doesn't want that, so why would he be better? How he interacts with Kantos every single time is what sparks this note for me, because he's so abrasive and so obvious when managing these money drops. And before the end of the episode, we see Tasha comes to the club on another night, but can't bring herself to come in. Instead, she opts to give Shawn another show in the car on the way home, and that's synonymous for how she feels like an outsider with Ghost in this new life that he's building now. She uses sex, or in this case, sexual acts, to cope as usual, and then we see the episode end. I'm your girl Erica Vane, and that is my episode 2 from season 1 of Power Breakdown. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're new here so that you don't miss any of my Power breakdowns. I'm going through all of the original Power series before we get to Power Book 2, Ghost Season 2, which is premiering in November. So come along on this journey with me, hit the subscribe button, join the tribe, you don't want to miss it. If you have missed any of my other Power videos, you can check them out right here, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye.